Hummingbirds are amazing at what they can do, hovering and flying not only forwards but also backwards and traveling thousands of miles each spring and fall. They are almost constantly looking for a high-calorie dose of nectar to refuel their energy reserves. During a recent video session, hummingbirds at my flower stuck out their tongues several times. Just how do these tongues work? To get a better look at their tongues in action, I created a focusing rail for my camera, plus a holder for a glass test tube, which would be filled with sugar water. These colored plastic blocks and flour were 3D printed just for this purpose. A perch was added to make the hummingbirds more comfortable while they drink. Videos were recorded with and without a small flashlight shining up the length of the test tube. This was done to record videos with different amounts of lighting. The camera needed to focus on a small area near the test tube opening, so I chose a short prime lens with a short extension tube to increase the magnification. A black foam board was attached at the end of the rail to give a clean, dark background. Once the hummingbirds began drinking, they revealed something interesting about their tongues. Even when recording at 120 frames per second, it's hard to see what's happening, but going frame by frame, it becomes more clear. See that? They have a split tongue. Earlier, when a hummingbird stuck her tongue out in the open air, her tongue was closed. But here it opens up to capture the nectar and then draw it into this hummingbird's mouth. Hummingbirds have long tongues, similar to woodpeckers, with the length varying depending on the species. Just like woodpeckers, their tongue is wrapped around the inside of their head when it is retracted. Prevailing theories around hummingbird tongues say they draw liquid into their mouth using capillary action, similar to how plants draw water from their roots. Water absorbing upward into a paper towel, or paint moving up the strands of a paintbrush. Another theory is that hummingbirds trap liquid with their tongue by changing its shape while they drink. See those wispy structures hanging off the side of the tongue? They are C-shaped and they open and close to trap nectar. A cross-section of a hummingbird tongue looks something like this. A pair of rods supporting the C-shaped parts that trap the nectar. When the hummingbird first extends their tongue, it might look flattened like this, but then it opens up to capture any nectar it encounters. The C-shaped parts then begin to curl up and close when the tongue leaves the liquid, preventing the nectar from escaping. The tongue is flattened again as it extends from the beak after the hummingbird has swallowed the nectar. In this ambient light video, on certain frames, we see some detail in this tongue. That dark line is the rod that gives the tongue some strength. We can see here again that the end is complex, with the C-shaped structure reaching out into the sugar water. When this hummingbird sticks their tongue out into the tube, the beak seems to be less open compared to when the tongue is drawn back inside. This would make sense considering a closed beak might push the sugar water out of the tongue. This begs the question, are hummingbirds squeezing nectar from their tongues when they swallow? Are they using suction to draw nectar from their tongues into their throat? Or maybe even a combination of the two. Later on, a different hummingbird stops by. The C-shaped segments are easily seen in this video. During another visit, the same structures are still seen. On another day with a small flashlight and a sunshade installed, the transparency of the tongue is really noticeable. It's interesting that the C-shaped structures at the end of the tongue are less visible with this hummingbird. The change in lighting seems to make a difference in how much detail can be seen. If you ever want to capture footage like this of wild hummingbirds, set up the camera gear in the vicinity of an existing hummingbird feeder. Then take down the existing feeder to encourage them to visit the camera setup. If they don't immediately take to the new setup, give them time. It took hours of watching before one began using the test tube feeder. When hummingbirds are preparing for migration, they tend to stay at feeders and gulp sugar water much longer than earlier in the summer. Sometimes they take a short break before perching on the feeder again and gulping more sugar water. Look at all that gulping. It's almost like this hummingbird is slowly getting bigger as it drinks. Do you have any interesting hummingbird stories? Share them in the comment section. If you'd like to see more hummingbird action, check out the video in the upper right corner.